Well, I'm recording my thoughts here as everyone has seen, this coronavirus has got everyone having to stay inside. I'm getting a little bit of the cabin fever myself. There's only so many times you can mow the lawn before you're just blowing dust. Uh, and after using the last of my face masks to keep myself from suffocating from the dust from the lawn tractor, kind of have to stay inside, and I've never really had that much time inside. Well, I've always known that my nephew was really into YouTube and watching YouTube videos, so I started exploring those, and there's a lot of interesting stuff on there. A lot of stuff that I never really imagined, and it's opened me up to a whole new world in a way. But also getting a little bit more into worlds already knew. One of which being something that I had a bit of an argument with my brother, Bradley. Well, he goes by Bradley. The man's in his 60s. He likes going by Bradley because it makes him sound young. But you see, the thing is actually his real name is Bradford because Mama named him after the tree, the Bradford pear. The ones that, they only bloom 1 week a year but smell like farts for the rest of it. Those. So he'd rather go by Bradley, but, Bradley's always, been a bit, I guess, one of those conspiracy theorists and stuff like that. He doesn't even think JFK was killed by John Wilkes Booth. He's always got a thing. He thinks the moon landing was actually on Mars, those kind of things. Well, he's recently, in the past few years, started talking about flat Earth, and we would get into big old arguments about, whether the Earth was flat or round. Like I'd say, Bradley, look, there's a hill right there. And, he would say, that's not what I'm talking about, that's topography. Of course, there are hills. I'm not saying it's completely flat. I'm saying it's not a sphere, is what he would say, which would confound me, because I would say, but they go up in space and they see it's a little old circle there. I seen it on the television. But then he would counter and say, well, that's all nonsense. You think those aliens in Star Wars are real? They're just effects, and those are effects as well. And I was like, wait, but they going into space, and then he tells me space ain't even real, that they just made it up, and I can't believe he said something like that to me. I love space. Star Trek's one of my favorite shows. He's trying to tell me that place where Jean-Luc Picard's always at ain't real, and I don't like it. And it kind of burned my ass a little bit, that argument, because it just, how do you argue something like that? So I started, once I got on YouTube, I started looking around, found a recording of an interview with this Neil deGrasse Tyson fella. Now I wasn't really sure who he was. I assumed he was the guy who invented the Tyson Chicken Nuggets company. Because, I love Tyson Chicken Nuggets. And here in North Carolina, you see, few years back, we had Beverly Perdue as our governor. Now, the thing about Beverly Perdue is she is also of the family that does the Perdue chicken nuggets, and I'll tell you this, I'm afraid to get a little political here, a little inflammatory, but those chicken nuggets taste like seal taint. They're nasty, slimy, don't taste like different chickens at all. But the Tysons, those are great. So, I wanted to hear what this Neil man was saying. And he was dropping some interesting knowledge on the person he was talking to about this flat earth subject. Turns out, it ain't round. It's an ellipses. The earth ain't even a ball. It's some sort of like slight lumpy egg. So, turns out my hill argument was actually spot on. So I can't figure out what Bradley's, where he's arguing from, because I look at some of the YouTube videos that are, for the flat earth idea, and, they do these little math problems and experiments, and, Lord knows I don't understand how they're they're getting their data there, but in in all honesty, when I look at the actual scientists who do the stuff that say the Earth is round, I don't understand that either. So I kind of hit a brick wall with there. The numbers don't exactly help make anything make sense to me in that sense. I can kind of understand Bradley's idea of you go out, if it's round, wouldn't you be rolling downhill? Whereas I say, but I see hills and you roll down the hill. Um, it's a real strange conversation that I never thought I'd have with anyone, but we're in a strange world these days. The whole world's on lockdown right now. Can't even go down to the grocers. Well, some of the grocers you can go down to, but you got to go at the right times. They have those at risk people. I'm not quite yet of the age to be at risk, but getting close. I don't want to give away my age, make myself sound too old. But I guess, being holed up in your house, it's caused me to have to leave my comfort zone a little bit. It could be worse. You could be stuck with people you don't like. I can still talk to Bradley and my sister Mary on the phone every day. I live with my nephew, which he's doing those video games or whatever. He's into some nonsense called Neo 2. I don't some weird Japanese sword business. I don't understand the appeal of those things at all. It just looks like a bunch of weird numbers and flashing lights. You see, I've always heard that these games are supposed to be realistic and stuff like that, and I watched him play it a little bit, and he hit this monster there. It looked like a snake with breasts, so kind of a little perverted there. But when he hit the teddy snake, instead of blood, numbers came out. Like, I asked him, why is that snake bleeding numbers? And he was saying those are the damage values. And I was thinking, well, the damage value is supposed to be how much, cut into it is. I can tell you one thing. I remember when I worked in a slaughterhouse for about, well, I was about to say a week. I worked in the actual slaughterhouse for about an hour, and I didn't quite have the constitution to flay more than one critter. But from what I do remember, when I cut that carcass open, it wasn't numbers that came pouring out. It was, the blood and the bile and what the thing had for lunch last. So I was kind of up. They had me stocking the candy bars for the rest of it, and that job didn't quite work out for me. But so video games not really something that I can say that I'm very interested in. My nephew, he's a bit of an idiot. He thought it would be a good idea to go to school to learn how to make video games. And I'm thinking, they make them in Japan, not North Carolina, you fool. And then he said something about Fortnite, and I don't know why he was talking about a Fortnite. I mean, these games are made in Japan, and I guarantee you in 4 days they're still going to be made in Japan. An industry don't pop up overnight. But they go away overnight, like we're kind of seeing right now, so maybe he ain't as much of a fool as I thought he was. But he stays in his room most of the time, and I'm kind of here piddling on YouTube, going out and doing what little on the yard there is. You can only pick up so many sticks before you get sick of that. At least I'm stuck in here with my dog Nedry. Oh, I love my little dog Nedry. He's named after my favorite actor, Dennis Nedry from Jurassic Park. Got killed by that fancy dinosaur with the funny collar that spit acid at him. But Nedry's a fun little dog. Though, one thing that has got me a little bit worried, because, the vet, you can't just go to the vet willy nilly unless, it's emergency. Well, his claws have been getting a little long, and, when he humps your leg, tears the thing up quite a bit. Very rough lover in that sense, you could say. But, goodness gracious, few weeks ago, well, I guess it's a thing he's done for a long time, but I never noticed it until recently. But dogs will poop, as any creature will. But he did some kind of poop. Smelled of fish. It was this fishy stink, and I was thinking, why he ain't ate no fish. I checked his food; it won't fishy. So I was concerned. Where's he been getting this fish? There ain't no ponds nearby. Dog don't even know how to swim as far as I'm aware. Well, I did a little bit of research in that I went to the vet and pretty much just asked them what they knew. That was my research, I guess. But they said that that's his anal gland, and that if it's not expressed properly, it'll just spontaneously do that. So apparently, a dog's caboose gives off like a little certain smell, and it's not a fart, it's a certain smell that's supposed to communicate with other dogs, because you see them sniffing at each other's rear ends a lot of times. I'm not really sure what they're trying to say with that other than stay away from me, because good gracious, I can't imagine that being attractive to any creature. But I kind of asked if there was anything I could do about it, and they said, well, he, excuse me, that he probably needs to have him express. And I'm thinking, express? You want me to give the dog an art class? And they said actually that what you got to do is you gotta put a horse in his barn, if you know what I mean, and squirrel around in there, and that releases them. And I was kind of looking at him funny and says, "You're saying I gotta molest my dog for them to not know fish farts?" And then, they actually did it there. I guess it's more clinical or whatever. But that was a real weird thing, and I've been wanting to take him to the vet, but I'm kind of afraid to go out and stuff like that. To get his his barn played with. So I guess I'll just have to, spray, get my Febreze and spray it on the couch whenever he goes to sleep there. But goodness, now that I think about that, going to the doctor and having something put in a bit of a precious area, I've been thinking, with Bradley, he what is it? Back when he turned 50 and had to get a prostate exam, I remember him being very weird about that when he came home. And, I bet they put a horse in his barn too. That might be why he's had this kind of bug up his ass, pun intended there, of over scientists, I bet. That might explain what all this conspiracy or anti-scientist thing. Well, I guess I better take Nedry out. I'll talk to all y'all later. Have a good one.